From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goudeau.
Good morning and thank you for watching Texas This Week. We're getting a first look at the rules the United States Postal Service wants to put in place to carry out President Donald Trump's executive order intended to crack down on mail-in voting. And Democrats think they can flip a dozen state house seats in Texas. Their plan to make it happen. But first, let's get to the 3 things you need to know in Texas politics. Texas Secretary of State Jay Nelson is stepping down. On Tuesday, the 30-year state senator turned Texas's chief elections officer announced her resignation after 3.5 years on the job. Her last day will be July 17th, leaving Governor Greg Abbott to appoint a replacement that will oversee the November midterm election. And because of the timing, his replacement will do so without confirmation from the Texas Senate. It looks like Texas Attorney General and now Republican U.S. Senate candidate Ken Paxton will be able to keep his divorce from State Senator Angela Paxton out of the public eye. This week, the trial, which was set to start later this month, was canceled. Attorneys say the Paxtons are working toward an amicable solution. Senator Paxton filed for divorce after 38 years of marriage, citing biblical reasons amid allegations that Ken Paxton was having an affair. The New World screwworm fly is in Texas. The USDA confirmed the first reported case in South Texas this week. The flies lay eggs on or near wounds and body openings of warm-blooded animals, primarily livestock and pets, but occasionally people. And when those eggs hatch some 12 hours later, the larvae feed on living tissue, which can cause death. It's the first time the pest has been found in Texas in nearly 60 years. Governor Greg Abbott expanded the state's disaster declaration, and Ag Commissioner Sid Miller is calling on the federal government to take more aggressive action to eliminate the flies. Back in March, President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at cracking down on mail-in voter fraud. The sweeping order requires the U.S. Postal Service to have a heavy hand in what happens to ballots. And now we're seeing the proposed rule change from USPS on how it would carry that out. And it's raising questions about the future of mail-in voting all across the country. Among other things, the plan would require states to share voter lists with the federal government and could create new requirements for election officials. I talked with reporter Dion Nissenbaum from the nonprofit news organization Votebeat about the proposal. Okay, this all goes back to that executive order from the president. First, remind our viewers what exactly the president ordered.
All right, this was an executive order that came out in March, and he is directing the Postal Service to essentially create national voter lists. The Department of Homeland Security is also involved in this, but the U.S. Postal Service last week issued these new proposed rules that takes the first step in trying to implement this executive order, which the president issued in an effort to address his concerns about voter fraud in federal elections.
Talk to us about the rules. There's several points, right, in this proposed rulemaking from the post office. But tell us the high points here. What all is included in this proposal?
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me is the first thing that you mentioned, is that it requires states to submit lists to the Postal Service of everybody that's requested an absentee ballot. They have to submit that 60 days before an election. And then if you're not on that list, then the Postal Service can reject sending you an absentee ballot. So it means that if you're not on the list, then you're not able to vote absentee in your state. This can conflict with state laws that have much shorter deadlines for requesting an absentee ballot. If you have to go out of the state a month before the election and request it, you wouldn't be able to get an absentee ballot under this proposal. The other element of this that's raised concerns for elections officials is the issue you talked about, is it requires sort of uniform federal standards for what each ballot would look like. So it would have to have a special barcode going to the voter, and then a special barcode when the voter sends the ballot back to the elections officials. And this is creating all sorts of concerns for smaller counties, rural counties that don't have the ability even to create these barcodes with their current contractors, and also cost, because there's no federal money provided for states and counties to enact these changes.
Yeah, and something that I really want to point out from your reporting, we're talking about if a person is not on this list that was sent, the post office holding your ballot and not sending it to you would be what could happen. Obviously, this is also raising a lot of legal questions because we know that the elections are a state duty, not a federal duty. Talk to us about some of the legal challenges and the legal questions about these proposed rules.
Exactly. That's sort of the overriding issue here is that, the Constitution gives Congress and the states the power to regulate elections, not the president. And this has sort of been at the heart of the debate as the president has tried to impose more federal control over elections. There was actually just a hearing in Boston yesterday with the ACLU and a League of Women Voters and a bunch of states that are challenging this election order. And it did appear that the judge was concerned about this, especially as it comes to the upcoming November election, because the timeline is so short here. There's going to be a 30-day comment period before this even moves forward. And, the timelines are running on all of these proposals. So it faces a lot of hurdles being enacted from a constitutional perspective and also just from a practical perspective.
So big news from the National Democratic Party this week. They are targeting 12 state house seats in Texas. Talk to us about what really led to this decision.
Well, they see that big things are happening in Texas right now. The Republicans just nominated Ken Paxton. That was great news to Democrats. He's not a likable candidate to moderate Republicans and to independent voters. So this is a real opportunity in 2026, and the momentum is building here in Texas. We are very excited.
Yeah, these 12 seats weren't just picked by happenstance, right? These are seats that Democrats had. They were in control over, some years ago. Talk to us about what really went into identifying these 12 seats and picking these 12 seats.
So we're using data. I mean, we're looking at the numbers in each one of these districts. We have some amazing candidates. And what's really cool about a lot of our candidates in these seats, they are school teachers. They are working folks. They are people frustrated with the system that is not working for them. So they truly align with the voters. They know the frustration. So, it's been a grassroots effort to make sure that every seat has a Democrat running in it. The Republicans are going to have to spend their money in every seat to make sure that they win. But we know that we're going to be able to take advantage of this and flip many of those seats. I'm so excited that the DLCC, put the list out because it aligns with ours. But we're helping every candidate, all 150, many of them being our incumbents. But we're not going to stop at those 12. We're helping every candidate.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the 12, maybe for people who haven't seen the list. Tell us where these districts, generally are and, what obstacles you're going to face because, most of them went for Trump in the last presidential election.
Yes, so many of these are in South Texas. We lost some ground there. Our messaging wasn't on point during the last election. And I'm frustrated too that we lost some seats, but we're going to be able to win those back. And, the Republicans keep redistricting themselves, and sometimes they have more Democrats that traditionally didn't vote because there was nobody to vote for, but we're going to pull those folks out. So we have seats in Dallas, we have seats in San Antonio, we have, those few, as I mentioned, in South Texas. So they're all over Texas. It's really a broad net that we've cast all over the state. And there are some in Houston as well. So, just around the corner from me.
When you talk about the Republicans are going to have to spend money, protecting all of, or trying to protect all of their seats. The Democrats are going to have to spend money too, and there's going to be some challenges, especially for folks who have never held political office before, who are running for the first time. You talked about you're going to support all of the races, particularly when it comes to the messaging. Talk to us about what this list, being on this list, these 12 seats, what does that bring from the national perspective? Does it bring dollars?
It should. We haven't seen it just yet. We've seen a little bit trickle in, but certainly by the fall, we'll see some investments in our campaigns and the work that we're doing at HDCC. Campaigns can't be bought. Voters can't be bought in Texas. So we're going to run on some very efficient campaigns, and we know that talking to the voters is key. We saw unprecedented amounts of people coming out in the primary. Republicans think they can just buy all these votes, and it's not true. Texas is not a Republican state. It's a non-voting state. And for the first time in these smaller districts, now remember, Texas House districts are only 200,000 folks in each one of those districts. So it's easier for that one candidate to make it around the entire district and talk to the voters, and they know what the frustrations are. So we're running a campaign built on grassroots, block walking, talking to our neighbors and asking them to support our campaigns and our efforts. And that's truly a winning strategy. We're not just going to throw money at commercials and a bunch of mail.
If Democrats are able to flip those 12 seats like they did in 2018 and hold on to all their current districts, they would be 2 seats shy of controlling the lower chamber. Republicans have controlled the Texas House since 2003. That's Texas This Week.